start?
Go ahead.
I'm Eric Weitz. I'm professor of history at the University of Minnesota. I also hold the Arsham and Charlotte Ohanessian Chair in the College of Liberal Arts at the U, and I direct the Center for German and European Studies.
Explain to me, if you would, exactly what we're talking about in terms of what Armenia was prior to World War I and what happened after 1922.
Yeah. There was an historic Armenian kingdom, both in the ancient world and the medieval world. But by the time we're into the modern period, into the 19th century, there is no country, Armenia. Armenians were a Christian people who lived, by and large, in the Ottoman Empire, in Iran, and then in the Caucasus region, which came under Imperial Russian control in the mid-19th century.
What happened 90 years ago?
90 years ago, in 1915, the Young Turk government of the Ottoman Empire instituted the first total genocide of the 20th century. And far more systematically than in any previous suppression, sought to exterminate virtually the entire Armenian population of the Ottoman Empire.
Why?
The Ottoman Empire had been one of the great multi-ethnic, very large, multicultural pre-modern empires. By the time we get into the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the governing elite of the empire was moving toward a more exclusively nationalist, partly even racist vision of what the empire should look like. And imagine creating an empire that was exclusively Turkic. That meant that those populations that at one time had been protected, had been in a subordinate position, but had been protected, now came to be seen as threats to the very integrity of the empire and the vision the Young Turks had of recreating the empire in an even broader geographical area. The Armenians were the population that the Young Turks saw as most threatening their vision of an exclusively Turkic empire. So in the context then of World War I, the Young Turk regime escalated the repression, the murderous policies against Armenians. There had been massacres previously, 1895, 1909, and the massacres had indeed been horrible, and tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people had been killed in those massacres. But there was nothing comparable really to the extent of the genocide that the Young Turk regime instituted beginning in 1915. World War I is critical here because in the war, the Young Turk governing elite began to feel very threatened. The British were landing in the Dardanelles. I should say the Ottoman Empire had become a German ally in World War I. The Young Turk government felt incredibly threatened by the British landings in the Dardanelles, the Gallipoli campaign, by defeats at the hands of the Russians in the Caucasus. And because of this growing sense of insecurity, they began to worry that the Armenian population would become even more of a threat. At the same time, the Young Turks, in the context of war, began to think that they really had a great opportunity now to create what they could not create in peacetime, that is, an exclusively Turkic empire. So it was the combination of feeling threatened, but also seeing a great opportunity in the emergency conditions of wartime that they dramatically expanded the kinds of repressions that Armenians suffered under. So in World War I, we reach a totally new stage in terms of the repression of Armenians, a policy that goes beyond repression to the actual systematic murder of a huge proportion of the Armenian population.
Give me a one sentence we can toss in if we need to, explaining why you're using the phrase Young Turks rather than just simply the Turkish government. What do you mean by Young Turks?
The Young Turks were a group of mostly officers, but others associated with them, who staged a revolution in 1908 and then again in 1913 and essentially seized power of the Ottoman government from the previous ruling family. The Osmani family, the head of the Ottomans who had come and conquered Constantinople in 1453.